In the quiet town of Black Hollow, Maine, there was a house that no one talked about after sunset. It stood at the edge of Willow Creek Road, hidden behind dying oak trees and rusted iron gates. The paint had peeled away years ago, revealing gray, rotting wood beneath. Its windows were cracked, but sometimes, just sometimes, people swore they saw movement behind the glass. The Harper House. No one had lived there for over 20 years. At least, that's what the town believed. Ethan Cole had just moved to Black Hollow from Boston. He was 28, a freelance journalist chasing stories that most people were too afraid to touch. When he first heard whispers about the Harper House at the local diner, he assumed it was just another small town legend. "Don't go near that place at night," the waitress had told him, refilling his coffee without making eye contact. "Bad things happen." Ethan smiled politely. "Like what?" She hesitated. The entire diner had gone strangely quiet. "People hear screaming," she said softly. "Lights turn on inside, and sometimes, someone stands in the upstairs window." Ethan felt a chill, but not fear. Excitement. This was the kind of story he needed. The legend dated back to October 1998. The Harper family, Daniel, his wife Margaret, and their 8-year-old daughter Lily, had lived in the house for nearly a decade. By all accounts, they were normal, quiet, polite, until the night the police arrived. A neighbor had called 911 after hearing what sounded like violent arguing, followed by a scream that didn't sound human. When officers broke down the front door, they found the house empty. No blood, no signs of struggle, just furniture overturned and deep scratch marks carved into the wooden walls. The Harper family was never seen again. Their car remained in the driveway. Their phones were inside the kitchen drawer. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. The case went cold within months. But the sightings began shortly after. Ethan parked his car across from the rusted gate just before midnight. The air was colder here, heavier somehow. Fog rolled lazily along the ground, curling around the broken fence posts like pale fingers. He grabbed his camera, voice recorder, and flashlight. October 14th, he whispered into his recorder. 12:03 a.m. "I'm outside the Harper House. Locals claim paranormal activity increases after dark. Let's see if the ghosts of Black Hollow feel like talking." The gate screeched as he pushed it open. Too loud. The sound echoed unnaturally long, as if the night itself had swallowed it and stretched it thin. He stepped onto the overgrown path leading to the porch. Every instinct told him to turn back. But pride, and curiosity, pushed him forward. The front door was slightly open. That wasn't possible. According to town records, the house had been sealed years ago after teenagers broke in and vandalized it. Ethan froze. The door creaked slowly inward on its own. He swallowed. "Wind," he muttered. But there was no wind. Inside, the air smelled damp and metallic, like old coins soaked in rainwater. Dust floated in his flashlight beam, dancing in lazy spirals. The living room looked frozen in time. A couch sat overturned. Picture frames were shattered on the floor. And there, across the far wall, were the scratch marks the police had documented. They weren't random. Ethan stepped closer. They formed words. "Help US." His breath caught in his throat. The scratches were deep, too deep to be made by fingernails. He reached out to touch them. The wood was cold, ice cold. A loud bang echoed upstairs. Ethan spun around. Silence followed. Then, footsteps. Slow, dragging, directly above him. His heart pounded against his ribs. "This is Ethan Cole," he whispered into his recorder, his voice trembling. "Now, I'm hearing movement on the second floor. It sounds like..." The footsteps stopped. Right above him, dust fell from the ceiling. Something was standing there, listening. He debated leaving. Every horror story he'd ever covered began with someone ignoring obvious danger. But he needed proof. Slowly, he moved toward the staircase. Each step creaked loudly under his weight. The sound felt wrong, like the house was reacting to him. Halfway up, he felt it. A shift in the air, as if someone had just exhaled directly behind his neck. He whipped around. No one. But the front door downstairs was now closed. He was certain he hadn't shut it. The hallway upstairs was darker than it should have been. His flashlight flickered. At the end of the hall stood a small white door. A child's bedroom. Lily Harper's room. The door was slightly ajar. From inside, he heard soft humming. A lullaby. Slow. Off-key. Ethan's mouth went dry. He forced himself forward. "Hello," he called softly. "Is someone there?" The humming stopped instantly. The silence that followed was suffocating. He pushed the door open. The room was covered in dust, but the small bed in the corner looked untouched. On the pillow lay a stuffed rabbit. Clean. Too clean. As if someone had placed it there recently. His flashlight flickered again, then went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Ethan fumbled for his phone. Before he could turn it on, a whisper filled the air. Right beside his ear. "You shouldn't be here." He gasped and stumbled backward, crashing into the wall. His phone's screen lit up. The room was empty, but the stuffed rabbit was no longer on the bed. It sat on the floor. At his feet, facing him. A sudden slam shook the house. Every door upstairs closed at once. Ethan ran into the hallway. The staircase was gone. Where it had been moments before was now a solid wall of wood. His breathing turned frantic. "This isn't real," he whispered. "This isn't real." The temperature dropped sharply. Frost began creeping across the hallway walls. And then he saw them. Handprints. Small. Child-size. Pressing outward from inside the walls. As if someone were trapped within them. Dozens of tiny hands pushing, clawing, trying to break free. "Help us," multiple voices whispered at once. The sound vibrated inside his skull. Ethan covered his ears and screamed. Suddenly, everything stopped. The frost vanished. The hallway returned to normal. The staircase was back. His flashlight flickered on again. Silence. Had he imagined it? His recorder lay on the floor where he had dropped it. He picked it up with shaking hands. The red light was still blinking. It had captured everything, or so he hoped. He rushed downstairs and flung the front door open. Fresh night air hit his lungs. He didn't stop running until he reached his car. Inside, he locked the doors and tried to steady his breathing. His hands were trembling violently. He looked up at the house one last time. The upstairs window glowed faintly. A soft yellow light, and in the center of that window stood a figure, tall, unnaturally tall, its head tilted at an impossible angle, watching him, smiling. But the smile was too wide, too stretched, almost tearing its own face apart. Ethan blinked. The light vanished. The window was empty again. Back at his apartment, he immediately played the recording. At first, everything sounded normal, his voice narrating, footsteps creaking. Then came the upstairs bang, the humming. But when the whisper played back, his blood ran cold. It wasn't a child's voice. It wasn't a woman's voice. It was deep, distorted, layered with multiple tones speaking at once. And after it said, "You shouldn't be here," another sentence followed. One Ethan had not heard inside the room. "Now you can't leave." The recording ended with a loud static burst. Then something else. A final sound. A child's laughter, coming from right behind him. Ethan slowly turned around. His apartment was dark. He lived alone. But in the reflection of his television screen, he saw it, standing in the hallway behind him. The same tall figure from the window. Its head bent sideways, its smile stretching wider. And this time, it was inside his home. Ethan couldn't breathe. The figure in the reflection didn't move, didn't blink, didn't disappear. It simply stood there in his apartment hallway, tall enough that its head nearly brushed the ceiling. Its limbs were too long, bent at strange angles, like they weren't meant to fit inside human skin. Slowly, painfully slowly, Ethan turned around. The hallway was empty. The light was off. Nothing stood there. His chest tightened as he looked back at the television screen. The reflection was gone. "I'm losing it," he whispered. But deep down, he knew better. The Harper House hadn't just shown him something. It had followed him home. His phone vibrated suddenly in his hand. Unknown number. At 1:17 a.m. He hesitated before answering. "Hello." At first, there was only static. Then, soft breathing, wet, heavy, as if the caller stood inches from the microphone. "Who is this?" Ethan demanded, trying to sound brave. The breathing stopped. A child's voice answered. "Did you find my rabbit?" The call ended. Ethan dropped the phone. The stuffed rabbit. He had left it in Lily's bedroom. He was sure of it. With shaking hands, he walked toward his own bedroom. The door was slightly open. He didn't remember leaving it that way. His heart pounded in his ears. He pushed the door open and froze. Sitting in the center of his bed was the stuffed rabbit, clean, untouched, its stitched black eyes staring directly at him. No, he whispered. No, no, no. He backed away slowly. The bedroom light flickered. The temperature dropped again, and then he heard it scratching from inside his walls, slow, deliberate, dragging across the drywall. He pressed his ear against the wall. Whispers seeped through. Not one voice, many. Let us out. Help us. It hurts. Tears welled in his eyes. This isn't real, he repeated. This isn't happening. The scratching grew louder, more frantic, like something was clawing its way toward him. Then, a loud crack split the wall beside his head. A small hand burst through the drywall. Pale, thin, child-sized. Its fingers twitched desperately, reaching for him. Ethan screamed and stumbled back. The hand retreated instantly. The wall sealed itself as if nothing had happened. Silence returned. He grabbed his camera. If this was happening, he needed proof. He pressed record and aimed at the wall. Something is inside my apartment, he said, his voice shaking. It followed me from the Harper house. Behind him, the closet door creaked open. He spun around. Inside the closet was only darkness. Too dark. Darker than normal shadows. His camera began glitching. Static filled the screen. Then an image appeared. Not his closet, but Lily's bedroom. On his camera display, he could see the small white bed, the broken window, the scratched words on the wall. Help US. The image zoomed slowly toward the closet floor, where something crouched, watching. The tall figure unfolded itself from the darkness. Its bones cracked as it straightened. Its smile widened, and in its long fingers, it held something small. 3 tiny shapes, dangling, swaying. Ethan leaned closer to the screen. His stomach dropped. They were hands, severed, child-sized. The screen went black. The lights in his apartment exploded in a shower of sparks. Total darkness swallowed him. He fumbled for his phone flashlight. When the beam flickered on, the walls were covered in scratch marks. The same words repeated over and over. Stay, stay, stay. His front door slammed shut. Locks twisting on their own. Windows rattled violently. You entered our house, the layered voice echoed around him. Now you are part of it. The floor beneath him began to vibrate. Cracks spread across the tiles. Black liquid seeped through, pooling around his shoes. It smelled metallic, like blood. The liquid rose unnaturally fast, swirling around his ankles. From within it, faces began forming. Twisted, screaming. Margaret Harper, Daniel Harper, and Lily. Their eyes were hollow pits. Their mouths stretched open in silent agony. Join us, they whispered in unison. Ethan scrambled onto the couch, trying to escape the rising blackness. But it climbed upward along the furniture, defying gravity, reaching for him. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He answered without thinking. How do I stop this? He screamed. Silence. Then the deep distorted voice replied. You don't. The line went dead. Suddenly, everything stopped. The black liquid vanished. The scratches disappeared. The lights flickered back on. Ethan stood alone in his untouched apartment. Dry floor. Clean walls. No damage. No sign anything had happened. He fell to his knees, sobbing. Morning came slowly. Sunlight filled the apartment. It looked completely normal. Had he hallucinated everything? He checked his phone. No missed calls. No unknown number in his history. His camera files were gone. Deleted. Except for one image. He opened it. It was a photo of him, standing inside Lily's bedroom. But he had never taken that picture. He was facing the wall, carving something into the wood with his own hand. 3 words. We are home. There was a knock at his door. 3 slow taps. He froze. Another knock. More aggressive this time. He approached cautiously. Who is it? A small voice answered from the other side. It's Lily. His blood ran cold. I just want my rabbit back. The doorknob began turning slowly. Even though it was locked, even though he hadn't touched it. The final thing he heard before the door burst open was dozens of children laughing at once. The doorknob twisted violently. Ethan stumbled backward as the door burst open with a deafening crack. Cold air flooded the apartment, but no one stood outside. The hallway of his building was empty, silent, still. Then, the stuffed rabbit slid slowly across the floor, from the hallway, into his apartment. Stopping at his feet, Ethan's breathing became shallow. "This isn't real," he whispered again. But the rabbit's head slowly tilted upward. Its stitched mouth began to split open. And from inside it, a child's voice crawled out. "You said you'd help us." The door slammed shut behind him. Locks snapped into place. The lights died. Dash dash dash. Darkness swallowed everything. Footsteps echoed around him. Not from one direction. From all directions. Small bare feet slapping against tile. Dozens of them. Something brushed past his leg. Cold, wet. He turned on his phone flashlight. The beam shook violently in his trembling hand. They were standing around him. Children. At least 20 of them. All pale, all thin. Their eyes were completely black. Cracks ran along their skin like broken porcelain. Each one stared at him silently. And behind them, the tall figure stood in the corner. Its head still bent sideways. Its smile wider than ever. "You opened the door," it said in that layered voice. "Now it stays open." The children began whispering. "He has space. There's room. He can hold us." Ethan shook his head frantically. No, I didn't agree to this." The tall figure stepped forward. Its body stretched unnaturally with every movement. "We do not ask." Dash dash dash. The children rushed him at once. Their tiny hands grabbed his arms, legs, face. Ice-cold fingers pressed against his skin. And then, they began pushing. Not against him, into him. Their hands sank through his chest like smoke through water. Ethan screamed as freezing pain tore through his body. He could feel them inside him. Moving, clawing, searching for space. His veins turned black beneath his skin. His vision blurred. The last thing he saw was the tall figure's smile stretching wider, wider, until everything went dark. Dash dash dash. The next morning, the police found Ethan's apartment door wide open. Neighbors had reported screaming during the night. But when officers searched the place, it was empty. No blood, no signs of struggle, just overturned furniture, and deep scratch marks carved into the walls. 3 words repeated again and again. "We are home." Dash dash dash. Weeks passed. Ethan Cole was declared missing. Another unsolved case. Another mystery. Black Hollow returned to its quiet routine. But something had changed. The Harper House no longer looked abandoned. Lights flickered inside at night. Curtains moved. Shadows passed behind the windows. And sometimes, a man could be seen standing upstairs, watching the road, his head tilted slightly to the side, smiling too wide, waiting. Dash dash dash. One evening, a group of teenagers dared each other to approach the gate. They laughed nervously as they filmed for social media. "See, nothing's here," one boy said. Behind him, in the upstairs window, a figure appeared, tall, still, watching. The video cut off when the screen filled with static. Later, when the footage was recovered, investigators found one final frame. It showed the inside of the house. The camera lying on the wooden floor. And Ethan, standing in the hallway, his eyes completely black, his mouth moving silently, as if repeating something over and over. Audio enhancement revealed the words, "Come inside." Dash dash dash. The Harper House was never torn down. No construction crew would accept the job. Equipment malfunctioned. Workers quit after hearing whispers inside the walls. And every few years, someone new disappears in Black Hollow. Always someone curious. Always someone who enters after dark. The townspeople no longer warn outsiders. They simply watch. Because they know the truth. The house doesn't trap everyone. It chooses. And once it chooses you, you don't leave. You become part of it. Dash dash dash. Some say if you drive down Willow Creek Road at exactly 1:17 a.m., you'll see a faint yellow light in the upstairs window. And if you look closely, you'll see more than one figure standing there now. A tall shadow, several small ones, and a man who once tried to tell their story. All smiling, all waiting.